The ultimate hater of black human beings. The ultimate hater. There is nothing about her existence that says, I'm black and I'm proud.
Be remiss not to also mention that Missoula was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida, early Monday morning. In 2018, he was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged sexual assault.
His name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder.
The NBA media is often disliked by many, usually just for their annoying journalistic tendencies. But considering recent involvements, one member of the NBA media stands out among all. She goes by Malika Andrews.
How's it going, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another video. Today we're going to be continuing the basketball theme, and we're going to be talking about NBA journalist Malika Andrews. Malika Andrews. I've been seeing her in the NBA world for the past few years now, and I've always had my suspicions about her over the years, but I never had any concrete proof. But in the video that we're going to go over now, we're really going to see that she is truly the puppet of the ESPN basketball. She is truly the puppet. And why I say puppet, we're going to find out. Let's tune in.
In her short career in basketball media, Malika has already swiftly established herself as a very disliked figure for various reasons. Whether it be from taking extremist stances, targeting specific groups of people, or just arguing out of bad faith, she's not unfamiliar to any of it. But despite these concerning incidents, the recent large-scale firing in an attempt to cut costs by ESPN saw the exit of many experienced and clean-slated analysts and hosts including Jalen Rose, Jeff Van Gundy, and Max Kellerman, while Malika Andrews remained untouched, causing outbursts among the community. While unsurprising, there was no doubt that NBA players, fans, and even her co-workers aren't fond of her.
I remember when these firings, they happened. I believe they happened roughly about, I think about a month ago, three weeks to a month ago. And I, now having, understood the video and understood like why they kept Malika on, it's very clear why they kept Malika, but they let all these other well-known analysts. I mean, Jalen Rose is a literal NBA talent. He used to play in the NBA. You find Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman was very popular, very, very popular. For those of you that don't know, think of Max Kellerman and Jalen Rose as one of the major reasons why people would tune into ESPN shows besides Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is one of the biggest ones, but besides Stephen A. Smith, you would definitely put Max Kellerman and Jalen Rose up there. So they were let go. Other journalists were also let go. Malika stayed. Why?
Malika was closely covering the Bucks vs Raptors series in 2019, was when her first controversial incident would arise. Following the Milwaukee Bucks' series defeat to the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals, a tense situation unfolded between Malika Andrews and Giannis Antetokounmpo during a post-game press conference.
So you guys have talked a lot about how at this point, sometimes it takes experience. I'm wondering if now that you have some of that experience, if you see more validity to that point, or what you think about that now that you've gone through it.
As you can clearly see, as soon as Malika begins talking, Giannis's face changes before he later walks out of the room. The reason as to why Giannis left was that within a short 15 to 20 minute time frame following his team's exit from the playoffs, Giannis would be notified of an article written by Malika Andrews. In the article, Malika had gone into great detail about Giannis's perspective on his future at Milwaukee with free agency approaching. The article basically created the narrative that his commitment to remaining in Milwaukee was based on whether the Bucks reached the NBA Finals or not. As a result, Giannis would not say a single word and see himself out, due to seemingly not wanting to partake in a conversation with her at all.
I remember when this happened. I remember this happened 3 years ago, 2019. For those of you that don't know, Giannis is probably one of the nicest NBA superstars. The media absolutely loves him. The fans love him. I'm not even a Giannis fan like that. My guy will forever be LeBron James. But you can't help but root for Giannis. He's just such a likable person. So for you to get under his skin so much that he would just stand up and walk away from an interview, that says a lot. That definitely says a lot. Because this was the first time I started paying attention to who is Malika Andrews. Because if you can get one of the most well-liked NBA players in the league to not like you, to get visibly upset on the, what you call, in the press conference, and for him to walk out, that's when I was now beginning to wonder. I'm like, who is she?
In September 2022, reports came out that Celtics head coach Ime Udoka was exposed for having a consensual relationship with a member of Celtics staff, breaking team rules, later resulting in his suspension as their head coach for the entire season that followed. In response to the situation and later suspension of Udoka, many members of the NBA media would give their input, including Stephen A. Smith. Stephen would come to the defense of Udoka, pointing out the hypocrisy with the entire publicized incident involving Ime.
Every single sport, there's people messing around with each other within an organization.
Yep.
It happens all the time. That is the problem with this issue. This black man that you got up here, we talking about him on national television because you publicize a personal matter where there's a whole bunch of issues personally that have happened in NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, and other sports. And we don't hear about their personal business.
The Ime Udoka situation. I remember when this first came out, I completely have, and I still have the same stance as Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins and other NBA analysts like Matt Barnes and Jalen Rose. Why is it okay to publicly air out Ime, but not the lady in question? Because as they said multiple times, it was a consensual relationship. Okay, fine. Ime Udoka got fired. Understandable. I mean, if you're sleeping with one of the owner's wives or girlfriends or stuff like that, I can understand why you're going to get fired. So Ime Udoka getting fired or getting suspended, I'm like, cool, I have no problem with that. But why isn't the lady involved also mentioned? Because she worked for the Celtics. In fact, she's probably still working for the Celtics. So Ime gets fired, but she doesn't get fired. But it was a consensual relationship. That's what I don't get. Like, I can completely understand if it was non-consensual, I'd be like, okay, that's incredibly messed up. She's a victim. But she's not a victim in this case. She was completely complicit in the relationship. So why is she being protected like she's a victim? That's what I don't understand. That's what Stephen A. also doesn't understand. But you're going to see now, this is where the Malika Andrews will basically vitriol from, general social media. Because if you just go and type in Malika Andrews on YouTube or on Instagram, you're going to see that the public perception or public opinion on her, not good at all. And I can say it definitively started with this Ime Udoka situation.
This would proceed to get Malika heated and on her high horse.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. We are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
So Stephen A. had to show her who was the real boss.
I don't appreciate where you're going with that. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening.
How are you going to go on Stephen A's show? Stephen A is easily the biggest NBA journalist on ESPN, by far. Like, in the basketball world, players know about Stephen A. Smith. Everyone knows about Stephen A. Smith. So for her to come onto his show and try to tell him what to do on his show, I'm glad that he's like, I don't like what you're implying. And remember, this is my show. You called into my show. So we're going to do things my way. Beautiful. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it.
However, when discussing the same topic on Malika's show, things went a little different with Kendrick Perkins.
This relationship that was had with Ime Udoka and one of these women, it was consensual, meaning that this woman actually played a part in it too. So my thing is, yes, Ime Udoka was wrong. We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook?
Well,
that's the problem that I have right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
It is unfair and irresponsible of us to go and to speculate on that, because what we have to...
Well, I'm not speculating.
Sure.
I have the information. I'm not speculating.
That whatever rule, the conduct that was broken on one side, it is not the same on the other side. I thank you for your perspective.
She was so absolutely triggered Like, literally, look at the picture on your screen right now. You can just look. I remember when I was seeing this exchange on NBA Today, I remember looking at her face and I'm like, this girl is pissed. This girl is pissed. And notice how at the end, she didn't even let Kendrick, basically have a rebuttal to what she said. Because everything Kendrick had said was completely valid. It's like, hey, it's a consensual relationship. If it's consensual, why is one party being punished whilst the other isn't? I think that's a very fair question. Like, if I'm going to get punished for something I did, and I know I did it with somebody else, why am I the one getting punished and the other person isn't? That's a very valid question. But it seems Malika is not interested in fairness at all.
Although it's easy to point the finger at Malika, the reality of the situation goes deeper and may only point to Malika Andrews as merely just a messenger. Because the truth is, Malika Andrews fits in perfectly as the ideal candidate to promote the woke or feminist narrative that most media tend to push. And after assistant coach Joe Mazzulla was named interim coach after Udoka's suspension, this is what Malika said to welcome him.
Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar.
You might be wondering, is Malika okay? How does it make sense to bring up someone's criminal history from 13 years ago in a situation where no crimes were committed under the law?
And Malika has a knack for doing this, where she's introducing NBA players or NBA coaches by, before even talking about their credentials, bringing up their past. Like you saw over there with Joe Mazzulla. Why is it relevant to him being appointed NBA coach now when what happened allegedly 13 years ago, not even convicted or anything, allegedly 13 years ago? But like the video states, it's the ESPN agenda. This is very political, and Malika Andrews fits perfectly within the politics of it all. So that's why I'm not going to be too critical of Malika, because as of now, we're not completely sure. Is this what she truly believes, or is she just being the puppet and regurgitating what ESPN wants it to say? Because to me right now, it seems with what she's saying, I believe that it's about 50-50, because obviously there's someone in her earpiece saying that, hey, say this about these people. And she's like, hey, you know what? I want to rise up the corporate ladder, so I'm going to say whatever it is, even if it means I'm going to tear down people around me to get there. Morally, is that okay? No.
So the question remains, did she speak these words of her own accord, or was she just reading from a script? If she indeed chose to bring up this incident unprompted, it reveals a deep-rooted hatred towards black men. If she didn't, then it brings up a deeper issue within the roots of the organization. Regardless, this doesn't take from the fact that Malika is the one making these absurd and damaging statements. Following this statement, it wouldn't be long until Malika Andrews' antics on television would again turn heads. While welcoming Jalen Rose back during a segment of a show, this happened.
Get your finger out of my armpit. We're just happy to see Jalen Rose. Welcome.
As you can clearly see, Jalen's hand is by no means under Malika's armpit. And even if it was, why does that need to be brought up on the spot in such an accusatory manner? Nevertheless, another baseless accusation by Malika, and Jalen Rose had to find out the hard way.
Jalen Rose, 100% what her behaving like that, I'm certain she was told to by the ESPN higher ups. They wanted Jalen gone, and they wanted to make a situation where it's like, make it seem like Jalen is a bit of a creep, make it seem like live on air. Was that really necessary for her to do that on air? Like, let's be honest, was that really necessary for her to be like, get your arm out of my armpit? And his hand was nowhere near. Like, if you just reverse, like, in fact, let me actually find a screenshot clip about that. His hand was nowhere near the armpit. And the way she made it seem like he was being a creep, like, oh, get your hand away from me, like that. I can guarantee that I am, like, my own personal opinion, I'm certain it was an ESPN ploy to get Jalen out of there. Because how is it a coincidence that less than a week after that episode airs, Jalen Rose gets fired along with everyone else, like Max Kellerman and all those other people that you saw at the beginning of the video?
There's no denying that she's swiftly established herself as a disliked figure in NBA media by her colleagues, as well as NBA players and fans, as a result of not just her typical journalistic tendencies, but her tendency to consistently attempt to tarnish the reputation of black men in the realm of sports. Malika's clear discrimination of black men on the extremely large platform is simply unjust, But what's more alarming is that the company that hires her continues to encourage her without punishment. After ESPN recently released their list of firings for the year, fans were outraged after discovering Malika Andrews was not on the list. Although many of us see through her often insensitive actions, to ESPN and sports media as a whole, she's probably seen as a loved and protected figure that can do no wrong. And the truth is, there is no sign that the rise of Malika Andrews in sports media will be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's the truth. Malika Andrews is not going anywhere. She is, to the general public, she might not be liked by the NBA players, by the other journalists, might not be liked, but the people that matter, the higher ups, the management, the people that pay everyone else's bills, they love her. And she's probably just going to be given more roles, more tasks. She's going to get promoted even more. She's going to get put on more shows. She's going to be tasked with interviewing more players. And she's probably going to be one of the most well-known NBA journalists, probably on the level of Stephen A. Smith in the future. That's just the reality of the situation. And in her case, maybe that's probably her goal. That is probably her goal. Maybe she doesn't care who she steps on to get there. It's a shame, but like I said before, some people, they don't care who they step on to get to the top. And in this case over here, it seems like that's the case for Malika Andrews.